Welcome back to Harbor. While the world has viewed last December's massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School as an unspeakable tragedy, some gun rights dead-enders have seen it more as an inconvenient truth, an event that could and has prompted calls for new gun laws. Enter the online conspiracy theorists who claim the massacre never happened and it's all a government plot to take away guns. Well, the New Yorker magazine this month describes the so-called Sandy Hook truther movement this way. A loose coalition of online conspiracy theorists claim that the massacre never happened. It had been staged. Conspiracy theorists as well as journalists overwhelmed the town's clerk office with so many requests for birth certificates and burial locations that the clerk is now working with state representatives to draft a bill that will limit the public's access to vital records. With me now is a man who knows all the truth up there, Connecticut Governor Daniel Malloy. And you were so powerful in your feelings about this and your thoughts about it. What is it that springs it out of our country's culture that people won't even accept reality when fights like this?
You know, I've looked at some of those. There's a lot of videos up, a lot of folks. I mean, they're really sick. I mean, honestly, these are not well people, and so anyone who ascribes to that theory really is advertising that they shouldn't be trusted for any reason. Yeah. And I mean, it's really wacky stuff. And you can go on YouTube and you can scroll through those and you can look at some of the art. It's interesting, but it's kind of like going to the fun house when I was a kid at Playland. You know, it's not reality.
Well, what about the power of the NRA that is real? And I keep thinking about, I just read this piece in the paper today about how even wives who are threatened by their husbands, really frightening cases of armed husbands saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to put a gun in your mouth and blow your head off. And they can't even get court orders to disarm these men.
Now, we can do that in Connecticut. Obviously, yeah. we're I think, ahead of the curve on that sort of stuff. No, there's this sickness. I mean, you have states that weren't reporting data. I mean, Pennsylvania not reporting hundreds of thousands of cases that would have disqualified people to get guns. This is a system that, if you had NRA has its way, there is no limitation. Everyone can get guns. We could say they shouldn't get guns, but we won't have a system that prevents them from getting guns. That's what the NRA now wants. Of course, it's different than what they said in 1999, but that's what they want.
Well, then I saw the vote in the Senate last week. We all did, where all the Republican senators voted against every initiative, whether it's limiting the number of well, it's on everything. It was background checks. It was obviously on assault weapons. I'm beginning to think nothing's really about guns is going to pass the Senate on partisan lines. Democrats for gun safety, Republicans against.
Yeah, these are real profiles in courage, aren't they?
Well, they can't all be sick.
No, they're not all. No. I mean, I think they had, they have reasons. I mean, they're afraid about their election prospects. I mean, when the head of the NRA goes to CPAC and says that the vehicle they have chosen to develop their policy is the Republican Party, what does that tell you? It tells you that there's this gigantic disconnect. The reality is the vast majority of Americans want universal background checks. You can't get on a plane without somebody doing a background check on you, but you can go and buy a gun.
Yeah, well, I guess they believe in same-sex marriage between the NRA and the Republican Party. Anyway, last week during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on gun control or gun safety, things got pretty heated between freshman Republican Ted Cruz, who's pretty far right on this gun issue. I think he's against any gun control, and Committee Chair Dianne Feinstein, who's very good on it. Let's watch.
The question that I would pose to the senior senator from California is, would she deem it consistent with the Bill of Rights for Congress to engage in the same endeavor that we are contemplating doing with the Second Amendment in the context of the First or Fourth Amendment? Namely, would she consider it constitutional for Congress to specify that the First Amendment shall apply only to the following books and shall not apply to the books that Congress has deemed outside the protection of the Bill of Rights?
I'm not a sixth grader. Senator, I've been on this committee for 20 years. I was a mayor for 9 years. I walked in, I saw people shot. I've looked at bodies that have been shot with these weapons. I've seen the bullets that implode. In Sandy Hook, youngsters were dismembered. It's fine you want to lecture me on the Constitution. I appreciate it. Just know I've been here for a long time. I've passed on a number of bills. I've studied the Constitution myself. I am reasonably well educated, and I thank you for the lecture.
Well, there you have it. This is the face of the new Republican right. They basically are for everyone having a gun, whenever they want it. In fact, they encourage you to have a gun.
They have no shame to go back to the McCarthy period. And I think Senator Cruz is one of those individuals. I mean, I think he'll demagogue this issue, and it plays well for his constituency. He, you know, I think he might even believe some of this.
Well, let's take a look at the numbers here, because you're familiar with this. This is the difference between passion and effective politics. The people with passion on this issue tend to be the gun people. Look at these numbers, though. If you look at the whole country now, armed guards in schools, pretty close. What do you make of that, 50-48?
You know, I think that it's an easy solution that people think about, and there are a lot of schools that have police officers. You know, that one.
You don't have a big strong. I don't either.
No.
What about this assault weapons ban? It's just about 57%, 3 out of 5. What do you make of that? Well, it's not a strong endorsement.
I think it is. I mean, I think, you know, the country has moved on this issue. They really now recognize how lethal and how dangerous.
But why only 57%? Because if you get into interest
there's
level,
a lot of people in Texas, I guess.
Yeah, well, the trouble is, of that 41% on the minority side, there is a lot of intent gun owners who will think about nothing else for the rest of their lives except keeping their guns.
You're right.
Let me go to the other one, illegal gun sales. That seems to be doing better, 82%. And of course, background checks always does well with 91%. Now, this is to me probably the cutting edge. If we can't get any more background check coverage, more effective background checking of people, then I think we will have lost a chance here, even in the tragedy, the horror of what happened in Connecticut, to get some minimal benefit out of it.
40% of guns in America change hands without a background check. That's the reality. That's what's happening in our country. Some of these sales are in alleys of urban communities. Some of them are taking place in Florida and Virginia, and guns moving up through straw purchasers. This stuff is going on. The American people get it. There's too much violence. We're losing 30,000 people a year. I mean, you know, a lot of them are suicides. A lot of them are domestic in nature. There's a lot of reasons for it, but we're losing too many people. The American people get that. People shouldn't have guns who have a restraining order against them or have a felonious background.
You're a reasonable man and a good man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor Dan Malloy of Connecticut. Up next, Sarah Palin.